Today's show is brought to you by homebrewsupply.com. Homebrew Supply is your one-stop shop for brew day ingredients, recipes, equipment, and more. Take advantage of everyday low pricing and everyday flat rate shipping only at homebrewsupply.com. Go to homebrewsupply.com right now and use our promo code HHH to get 5% off your order. homebrewsupply.com. Let us help make your brew day better.
Entertaining shows with content that spreads information and sparks discourse throughout the community. This is the Pearl Media Network.
Using 20-ounce CO2 cylinders, stouts and nitrogen, crafting clone recipes, and Black Friday Cyber Monday deals. This is Homebrew Happy Hour, episode 207. Hello and welcome to the Homebrew Happy Hour. This is the show where we supply the answers to your homebrewing questions and discuss all things related to craft beer. If you have a question you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, you can go to homebrewhappyhour.com and click on the submit a question link at the top of the page, or now you can call or text them in by using 325-305-6107. I am your host, Joshua Stubing. Today, I'm joined by the Director of Operations at cmbecker.com down there, Mr. James Carlson, as well as the President, Founder, Chief Keg Washer of kegconnection.com right over there to my right, Mr. Todd Burns. Gentlemen, how are y'all doing today?
Hello. Good.
I flubbed a little again on that intro. I'm not going to edit it out.
You're talking about the recipes?
Yeah, the recipes. Crafting clone recipes. I almost stopped. I was like, nope, because I'm not going to set that precedent. So I'm going to turn the music off. We don't need it.
It's kind of I have a deja vu feeling about this. I don't know what it is. Are you getting that, James?
I am pretty heavy.
Strange. Yeah.
Let me give the backstory. We were happily recording, or we were all set up to record episode 207 on Thursday of last week. And then my laptop, the brand new one, had, what would you call that, James? It shorted, or like it had a catastrophic power issue? I don't even know what you call that. I plugged in.
I personally think you spilled beer on it, but
no, at 8:05 in the morning.
I've seen you do it before.
Yeah. You're not wrong, but that's not what happened. And don't say that because Best Buy is listening. No, I plugged in the power. It wouldn't boot up. I didn't have anything plugged into it. Then I plugged in my power supply, and all of a sudden, it not only did it not boot up, but it started stinking like electrical fire. No smoke, but as soon as I unplugged it, that stench just came pouring out of the computer. And long story short, I had to drive 2 hours away, or an hour and a half away, to Weatherford and get a new one because I was the closest Best Buy. Even though Todd swears Abilene would have been closer. The old Google.
Oh, dude, I said it's the same.
Oh, okay. I thought you were, because you gave me flack.
It's closer from my house, not from the office.
Oh, your house is going in the direction of Abilene.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, that would have made sense. But anyway, then Friday, Todd and I are set up in the barn. James is in the office like he always is. And I start reading off that bumper, the using 20-ounce CO2. And as soon as I start saying that, my right hand hits the 20-ounce pour of Kolsch Todd got me all over my soundboard. Not on my laptop. I was able to save that. But the board from our end seemed like it was okay. And Todd, remember, I don't know if you recall, you were like, there's still like beer all over it. But I was so flustered. I was like, we got to just keep going. We got to keep recording. It's just on the surface. No big deal. That evening, when I go to edit the show, I'm like, Todd, listen to this. And it's like 4.5 or 8 minutes in. And it's like, oh, and that. And that's what the rest of the show sounded like. So it might have been entertaining to some people. But anyway, yes, Deja Vu, episode 207, redone. Fortunately, we were drinking, so I don't really remember what we said when we recorded it last. So we have to go through it again. I do remember Todd rushing through it because we were also having a cluster F of a brew day at the barn. We'll start the small talk off there. James, you did not have a cluster F of a brew day. You had what looked like a great brew day. Tell us about what you were brewing on Friday.
I did our Czech dark lager and went through good. pitched the yeast, and I had a stuck fermentation when I got to work at Monday morning. So I had to repitch some imperial yeast, and it's going good now.
I'm glad
I did not have a stuck fermentation. Mine was going nuts. I didn't realize that it was a little too warm. I didn't turn on the glycol unit because it was really cool in the barn that night. And the next day I didn't realize it had warmed up to like 75. So it wasn't there very long. I got it going and now it's cool. So,
well, and Todd, you'll have to, because we didn't publish last week's episode because we're recording it now. What did you brew at the barn?
Christmas beer. It was a Sierra Nevada clone.
The celebration clone. Yeah.
And it was a disastrous brew day. It was the worst when I was done, I was like, I didn't even enjoy brewing today. It went so bad. So I did figure out what was going on, James, that where the dip tube goes in and goes down, it's screwed into the side of the kettle. Well, it had actually bent slightly. The kettle was slightly bent. So it was making it go up. So I actually took it and kind of rebent it down, and now it's staying in place. But my dip tube pulled out from under the false bottom, and I had about as much grain in my boil kettle as I did the mash tun. So I had to transfer all the liquid into another vessel or several other vessels, clean everything out of the boil kettle, pour all the liquid back in, and then start from there. And then my ingredients went from brewing 3 kegs to brewing 2 kegs. So you
were able to save it. So
yep. I was able to save it. That's
a good thing.
I helped you. I mean, as bad as it was, I don't know if that helped you in like the proverbial like mental kind of side of things, but I was there as moral support.
Yes, you were there as moral support.
It wasn't the best moral support, but yeah, it was.
My bad dog is coming over to see me here. I take his collar off so he doesn't shake, but him and my other dog ran off, and I can't find the other dog. So
yeah, Milo is missing.
Oh God, it smells. He rolled in something really bad when he was out doing whatever he was doing,
getting into trouble. I just got a chocolate lab puppy. And
good luck with that.
Well, Todd's been telling me, bring him to the ranch and he can hang out with the boys. I don't think I want him to now. I think they're a bad influence. Charlie might be
they're definitely a bad influence.
Getting into trouble and oh goodness. But so yes, the brew days. I'm looking forward to. I believe these beers are for our Christmas season around the office. I'm really looking forward to your Czech dark lager, dude, because I think it's been a year. Have you even brewed it this year? I don't think you've brewed it this whole year. I think it was 2019 is the last time you brewed it.
The year that we went to the first year the year we went to Prague,
2018.
Was the last time I brewed that.
Oh, so it's been almost 2 years then. We went towards the end of 2018. Man, so that I'm looking forward to because I remember that being killer. And obviously, I think Joe brewed the celebration last year and it turned out real good. It's a solid recipe. And I don't know when Sierra Nevada puts their commercial release out, but it actually changes every year, doesn't it? When they release it, it's not quite the same recipe every year. They tweak it. I believe that's right.
I know that Anchor, what's Anchor Brewing? Is that what? What is it?
No, Sierra Nevada.
Anchor Steam.
Sierra Nevada's made celebration.
No, I know that, but Anchor Steam it changes their recipe. I'm not sure.
Oh, Anchor does. You're right. Maybe that's what I'm thinking of. Anchor definitely changes theirs.
Yeah, that's a big deal if they change it. It's different every year.
And I forget the name of their seasonal release, though. Steam is not it. That's their
Christmas beer, I think, is
just what they call it.
Yeah,
we all have supercomputers in front of us, and I'm playing dumb. Like, what do I do to get the answer? Can't figure it out. While y'all are looking that up.
Christmas ale.
Oh, just Christmas ale. And yeah, that one.
And I really look forward to that one every year. Like, I got to find it every year and try it. So hopefully I can, I may have to get you to bring me some if can't find it around here.
I did last year. Don't you remember? I brought you some last year.
You did.
And,
this year it's a fresh hop IPA celebration.
Ooh, really? So they're really changing it around, huh?
Yep. It's a 2020. So they do it at a different beer every year. This year it's a fresh hop IPA 2020 celebration.
Is this Sierra Nevada we're talking about or Anchor? Mm-hmm. Okay, right on.
It's Sierra Nevada.
Beautiful. Well, and I don't know then what year our recipe is based off of. I guess we'd have to ask Lorena, since she's undoubtedly the one who came up with that recipe. But it was a hit last year. Like, all I drank, I think, at last year's Christmas party was the breakfast stout and that celebration, and I got kerschnockered. It was good. It was a fun night. We're no strangers to people being at Todd's Christmas parties kerschnockered. Am I right,
No, we're
Mr.?
not.
You Texas boy. Anyway, moving on to some different small talk than the brew days. For our Patreon members, our November recipes are still available if you join in at the $50 tier. And because of the holiday season, new people at the $35 tier, usually the policy has been you join at the $35 tier. It's every other month. You join in on 1 month and then you start the next month. I've been giving people who join because a lot of people, we've had 4 people join at the $35 level and like, I really want to try that Schwartz beer. Is there any way that I could just skip next month and get it this month? I'm like, okay, whatever. I'm too easy, man. I'm too easy. Todd will tell you I'm a pushover. And I had to actually implement.
Well, it worked good with Best Buy, right?
Well, it worked good for not being a push. I was a pushover at first, and I called Todd at Best Buy. Like, they said that they have to take my computer out for 4 weeks, and then they'll give me a new one. And Todd was like, tell them that's not acceptable. So I was like, hey, is there any other option? And just like that, the manager came over and, trying to put out the fire. I wasn't even irate, but he was like, yeah, sir, you've been such a good customer. Absolutely. We'll take care of you this time. I was like, oh my God, I need to be more like Todd Burns. The Josh Stubing has failed me for 35 years. But anyway, people who have been asking me for our Patreon, getting back on topic, we've been adding you. So if you join and you really want it between this month and then December, we'll let you pick your recipe kit as well. So if you go to patreon.com/homebrew happy hour, the November kits are the delicious Patter's beer and a Schwartz beer. And then December's recipes will be announced right at the end of this month. And for our $50 members who have been with us for the full year that we've been at Patreon, we have something very special for you guys. But also, speaking of special, and this isn't just for those $50 members, this is for every $35 member and $50 member. Look at this cool beer sign behind me. How did those turn out, right? The metal beer.
Nice.
They really look nice, don't they?
The metal beer sign we are giving out for free as another additional perk for your $50 or your $35 membership. They'll start going out with December's recipes. If you are in any tier and you want to buy one, we're selling them for $15, and that includes shipping. And really, the $15, I promise you guys, barely it just covers our cost. It covers our shit.
Well, no, I mean, we lose money.
I was just saying, if you live in our region, I think it covers our cost. If you live in California, which a lot of our Patreon members are West Coast people, we definitely lose money. But again, though, not woe is me. Todd, the benevolent one, is who commissioned them because he wanted to do a gesture to say thank you to our Patreon members for supporting us these last 14 months that we've had it. And, we've got, we're at 76 as of this morning because we just had a guy who signed up for the year, which also reminds me to mention that. Patreon hit us up and they're like, hey, do you want to start offering memberships for a year? Sometimes people go for that more. And I was like, oh, okay, that sounds great. And they go, and most of the time, if you do it for a year, you offer them like, a discount or something. Like, okay, sure. So if you join by the year, it gives you a month for free. So we've had 2 guys now join at the $35 level for a year because they're like, oh, I'm gonna get 11 months, or I'm gonna get 6 recipes basically I'm getting 6 for the cost of 5, or no? How would that be?
Oh,
yes,
there comes math again.
Oh, you cruel mistress, math. Yes, I'm getting 6 recipes for the cost of 5. Wow. Oh my God.
Yeah, I mean, just go with that. That sounds really good.
Math in real time is so hard for me, especially when we're recording. But anyway, if you go to patreon.com/homebrew happy hour, you can get all the details on any membership and all that stuff. And again, every tier, if you want one, just message me. You can email Joshua at Homebrew Happy Hour. You can message us through Facebook, through Patreon, whatever. If you want to get one of these, we'll PayPal you for an invoice for $15 and happily ship it out to you, because we would love to see these hanging up in your brew areas. I've got this one given to my pop, or pardon me, I gave one to my pop and I brought this one. So I took 2 out of the pile, but we are very excited about those. And then the last small talk I have is with Thanksgiving coming up this week. Be on the lookout for Kegging and Homebrew Supply Black Friday and Cyber Monday deals. Our coupon code HHH does stack on top of those. That's 5% off. If you're not a Patreon member, you can use that code. If you're a Patreon member, more than likely you have a higher discount code than that too. So sign up for the newsletters at keggconnection.com and homebrewsupply.com to be in the full know with what's going on with Black Friday, Cyber Monday. We're also going to cover that here in a little bit with one of the questions I was asked. So guys, I'm going to get to the questions right now. We have 4 of them for today's show. The first one came from our buddy Abe, who used the submission form at homebrewhappyhour.com. Abe wrote, Joshua, I love the podcast and look forward to new episodes every week. My question is short and sweet. How many corny kegs can I get through if I'm using a 20-ounce tank of gas? I have bottled for years, but recently was gifted a regulator that is fitted for pin valve tanks and a single corny keg. As of right now, I brew in 5-gallon batches, and that's perfect for what was given to me. I know I need the beer pouring side of things, but do you think it's worth getting a regulator for larger CO2 tanks, or will this free setup get me through a keg or two before needing to refill the gas? Abe, that's a great question because we use 20. What's the largest size cylinder that you have, Todd? Do you have a 20-pound or is it 10?
I have a 50-pound.
Yeah, for that you use on your system?
No, that we use at work.
Oh, yeah. I didn't realize that's to fill the other ones, though, right?
Yeah, we fill from it.
Yeah. That's impressive. So you have experience from all the way from like the 16-gram cartridges all the way up to a 50-pound. What would you say that with the way he described it, that he is good to go with what he has?
Yeah, he can dispense 6 kegs with that. 3 if you force carbonate. That's a rough estimate, but that's what we did when we tried it. We definitely got 6 kegs pushed out, though. I'm talking about 5-gallon corny kegs. It was, I think, if I remember right, we did that test about 10 years ago, or maybe 9 years ago, and it pushed out about 6.5. We actually sat there. We used water so we didn't waste a bunch of beer, and we were able to do that. As far as, is that a good setup? I mean, it just depends on what you're doing and what you want to use it for. I mean, for all practical purposes, you could use that forever and it would work fine. I would recommend getting another cylinder because the cylinders are extremely inexpensive, and then you can always have one filled. So if you do run out of gas, you can just turn it around, because unlike on the 5-gallon tank, when the gauge goes down pretty low on the 5-gallon, starts to go down, you've only got what gas is left in the cylinder that's not compressed, because when it's compressed, it's liquid. So you don't have much left when it starts to read, say, 600 and starts going down. With a 20-ounce, you have virtually nothing left when that happens. So it's always good to have a spare cylinder around.
I have a buddy. His name's Joe. I know him through jiu-jitsu. Todd has a more demeaning name for it that we will not repeat on the show. But I helped him get set up for sparkling water, and he has a 3-gallon keg. He has a 20-ounce cylinder, the 20-ounce regulator, and I got him into getting a C.M. Becker event faucet whenever it was, a year ago or whatever. And that setup has been great for him. And I use that too, actually, for my kombucha, where I would say, Abe could go even cheaper because he's talking about needing the liquid side of things. He could get just a standard Cobra tap or Picnic tap with 5 feet of line or 6 feet of line to go to his keg. And then, he wouldn't have to drill through the door and buy a shank and buy a faucet like that. He just opened the door and dispense from there. But with the event faucet, what would make it even better is just the ability of having control over the pour. And then you don't have to do the restriction guidelines for the length of tubing. He can do a foot of larger diameter tubing straight to that, and then dispense. It'd be super convenient, right? Like, I mean, you help people get set up with that all the time.
Yeah.
And I think with the CO2 side of things, like you said, the best piece of advice from you just now was adding the additional cylinder. Because I would say, well, James, on your home system, I know you use a 5-pound, or I'm assuming you use a 5-pound. Do you even at that level keep additional cylinders, or is 5?
Yeah, I was lucky enough, Todd, we had an extra 5-pound cylinder. So Todd let me use it as a spare, backup. So I've always got one. Well, actually not now. I have 2. I have one empty and one that I filled the other day. It's a good idea to have a spare if you can do it.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of leading it to, because like my pop and I, we use 5-pound cylinders, and we have 2 kegerators, and when I brought mine over, I brought mine with my 2 5-pounds, and he already had 2 5-pounds because we kind of lived in that same kind of principle of having a spare. Just because, Todd, what is it about CO2 that makes that gauge for what's left not actually applicable until it's all gone? Right? Am I saying that right?
I mean, no. So it's just what I was just talking about. That a 5-pound cylinder. Well, it's liquid. Well, not basically, it is liquid. So it evaporates off the liquid, and that's what gives you your pressure. And the pressure is going to read anywhere from in the 400 range if it's in your fridge to, it could be over 1,000 if it's in your hot garage. But inside in a 75 air conditioned room, it's probably going to read it in the 800 range, and your fridge is going to read in the 400 range. It will continue to read that until all of the liquid is gone, and then there's only gas vapor left. Now, remember, when the liquid disappears or when it's used all up and it's gas vapor, it's still going to be at that 800 PSI until you start taking it down. So as you start to take that down, it's going to fall, but it's going to fall very quickly because you no longer have any liquid in there that's evaporating off. So it just doesn't last very long once the gauge starts going down. So the gauge is of limited use. It's exactly the same as a propane cylinder. That's the reason you'll almost never find a gauge on a propane cylinder unless what it is a strip on the cylinder that actually reads the level of the liquid.
I was waiting. I like that awkward silence because I knew you were done talking, and I was just sitting there. Your face was so intense. I was like, I'm just going to leave it here for like 4 seconds, see if he does anything. But you didn't. You rode that out well. I like that.
Thank you.
One thing I do want to say too, I have a mini flex, which we don't carry anymore. I believe it's because costs just got astronomical on those. It wasn't making sense to carry them. But that is what I love about that. And Abe didn't tell me if he has one of those or not. I just assume he has the kind like what most people use now, just like a tap right body with the pin valve adapter on it. But those mini flets, if you can find one, are so cool because I can go back and forth with that same regulator between, what's the name of the valve on most 5 pounds? Not a CGA 530, or what is it?
320.
A 320. Thank you.
CGA 320.
CGA 320 valve, or like those pin valves, or the 20 gram or the 16 gram. It's a really cool thing. That's what I love the most about having that here, is because if I clear out my fridge from other beer and just have that little keg in it, I can fit a 5 pound in there as well when I move a shelf. And that's what I'm going to probably do next, just because I'm going through.
Yeah, I mean
enough.
They're really cool, but we had a lot of problems. I mean, they were quality problems. That's the reason we stopped carrying them.
Oh, okay. Well, you know me. I mean, I'm sure. Maybe that's why I feel like I'm going through so much CO2. Maybe I'm actually having a leak. Maybe this is when I figure out I need to check that for a leak, because I've been going.
Yeah, just a regular. We have so much better luck with standard regulators, and we have a way to adapt those to the 20 ounce as well, because we have an adapter made. We've had it made for many years, and we thought the idea of that specific regulator. A lot of people sell them. You'll see them on other sites and other areas, but we just never had great reliability with them. We had a lot of them fail, so we just decided we didn't want to sell a product that wasn't working
that iffy.
as well as we wanted.
Yeah. So. Well, the Todd Burns stress test. You need to publish those videos on our YouTube so people can see how thorough. I was going to say ridiculous, but how thorough you are when you're testing specifically regulators. I've seen you put them through the ringer when you're testing because when you have stuff developed for you specifically too. Yeah, you're not in the business of putting your name on something that's going to give you customer service issues.
No, that's true. Yeah, it's not good for us. It's not good for the customer.
Right.
So
absolutely. So anyways, Abe, yes, I think especially if you're on a budget, the way that everything you were gifted seems like it's going to fit you fine, especially with you having one keg. If you start moving up to more than one keg, maybe you'll find yourself in need of upgrading to a 5 pound or a 10 pound cylinder. But as of right now, what a good friend to have given him that. I wish I had friends as good as yours. Okay, Abe, moving on to question number 2, came from our friend Tom P, who also used a submission form at homebrewhappyhour.com. Tom wrote, "Do you have any experience brewing homebrew with nitro? I just started brewing beer back in May, shortly after lockdown, and I want to brew a stout soon, and my favorite stouts at the bar are always made with nitrogen, so I want to imitate that if possible. When, during the brewing or bottling, would I mix the nitro into the beer? Apologies if you have already answered this, but I just found your website and podcast and saw your questions and answers section on there. Tom, that is a good question that we get a lot. And I wrote a note on there in the show notes just because I could imagine Todd going like, we could have just emailed him and not taken it. But it's not a bad question in the sense of like, we get these a lot because people just don't know and they're too intimidated to maybe ask or find out. So let's start at the very top of it, guys. Nitrogen is not used in the brewing process. Nitrogen's not, you don't infuse it in the mash. You don't infuse it during the sparge. It's not during the boil. Nitrogen is a gas used for dispensing. And then
delivery gas.
The delivery, exactly. And James, you guys at CM Becker using the V3N, you've got experience with it. What would you say for him with wanting to brew with nitro or wanting to dispense with nitro and then maybe using like a V3N?
Yeah, you use a V3N and use beer gas. I would use beer gas for that, not just straight nitrogen. We've done that with when we were experimenting with cold brew coffee, and also with, I think at one time we ran a stout through it, but it's been a while back, but it works great. That
is the last time I think we've had nitro or beer gas. And Todd, can you clarify for me? Because I always mess up. When people say nitrogen and they're referring to beer, 99.99999, or actually 100% of the time, they're referring to what's called beer gas. It is not pure nitrogen.
Well, you mentioned coffee, so you never ever want to use beer gas with coffee, and you never want to use straight nitrogen with beer. So, coffee needs pure nitrogen. The CO2, which causes carbonation, of course, but it also gives coffee a bad off taste, a bad flavor. So you want to use pure nitrogen with coffee. If you're going to do beer, you definitely want to use a beer gas, because otherwise you don't have any carbonation, and you're going to be drinking. You're going to pour it out with nitrogen. It's going to have the beautiful cascade, and then you're going to be drinking a flat beer. So that's why you want that mix.
My understanding, and I'm willing to be wrong and look stupid, and I'm not going to edit this out, I always assumed that you would carbonate first with CO2, and then you could use pure nitrogen as the delivery gas, as James called it. Is that not an option if you're using nitro? Like, could I not carb my stout? And I've got 3 on tap now, partly thanks to you, Todd. Could you not do that? Like, can I not now add nitrogen to the setup to just dispense, or would that still?
You might be able to. I don't know. You've got to get the nitrogen infused as well, though. You're not just serving with nitrogen. You're infusing some nitrogen into the beer, because then it gets so when you serve it with nitrogen, it's not like it's pushing the nitrogen in. You're actually doing just the opposite. You're breaking the nitrogen out. That's what those little holes do.
You're talking about on the faucet.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. We, like James was saying earlier, we don't have a ton of experience with it, except that a lot of people are, like Tom, under the impression that stouts, nitrogen will always make it better, or nitrogen is a necessity. James, have you ever used, you've brewed a bunch of stouts. I've had your stouts. And same with Todd too. I don't recall us ever even feeling the need for nitrogen. Is that because of lack of accessibility, or is that just because you think it's an unnecessary step in the serving and presentation of your stout?
Well, it's a different regulator. It's a different gas. It's a different faucet. It's just easier to put them all on the same setup like mine. I have a 3-faucet setup at home, so I'm going to just serve it on CO2. It's nice to have nitrogen if you have the means to set it up that way, but it's completely different setup than regular beer.
A man of efficiency. I can appreciate that. Well, that's how I feel too, though, because I've been saying, well, when I first justified getting a kegerator many years ago, because I told my wife we could do cold brew coffee on one of the tabs. We never did. We never did. I have the keg in here now that I could convert or the kegerator in here, or it's not a kegerator yet, beer fridge in here that I could convert and start serving cold brew nitro. I'm probably not gonna, because like you said, it's almost an additional. Look, guys, I'm lazy. It's a hassle. Having like you either have to have your own standalone tap for just nitros, that would make it efficient because then you know what you're using that tap for, or you're switching stuff out all the time. And I do think for me it'd be easier because I can get beer gas pretty easily where I'm located in the Austin area. Todd, I don't know how easy you can get beer gas out there, if at all.
I can get it. It's very, very expensive. They don't fill it here. I don't actually know what it costs in Austin or San Marcos anymore. In fact, I've got 3 nitrogen tanks, and I don't know if any of them have. I'm not absolutely sure, but I'm fairly sure that they're all nitrogen, pure nitrogen, although it seems weird I would have 3 of them. So I'm going to take one of them at some point and fill it with beer gas so we can experiment with this. And maybe at that point we can make a video and kind of show people what they need to do to infuse it and then serve it. Again, if the beer is somewhat carbonated, you got to be very careful not to over carbonate it, or you'll have a mess when you're trying to dispense it.
Yeah, I would say, he's been bottling, according to what he said, he's been bottling pardon me, that was the question before. He is new to it, pardon me, since May. Man, I'm mixing up questions. I would say for a brand new person, get into brewing the stouts and serving with CO2 and nailing a recipe maybe that you like, and then letting your setup convert to nitro as like a cherry on top when you get there. You know what I mean? Like get it, like if you nail in or dial in either your own recipe or a kit, we could recommend a ton. I got the breakfast stout on tap. I've got the Guinness clone stout on tap, and I had Todd's melt stout. All 3 were incredibly delicious. Sunday at my Pops, I just kept going pop, back and forth. My wife drove home. I was okay. But it was like, have so many good stouts. I would say of those 3, the melt stout would probably be complimented the most by nitro. And I'm only saying that I think because I love left hands on nitro. But I've had left hands on CO2. It's phenomenal still. The nitro is more adding to the presentation and mouthfeel than it is to anything else. And I think that's kind of its purpose, right, guys? Where it's not adjusting the taste or the off flavors or the notes of the beer itself. It's more of the creamier mouthfeel and a really cool presentation on it with the cascading and all that, which is kind of funny because Todd, have you noticed the breakfast stout is kind of doing a cascading effect when you pour it? I don't even understand that.
It is. Part of it. So I know the reason they invented nitro was Guinness was poured on a cask system at one time, and let's see if I can. It was poured on a cask system, and it actually air itself is largely nitrogen with some oxygen in it. I don't remember the exact mixture, but like 70 and then something 20. I don't know, with some other gases mixed in, just air you breathe. So there was nitrogen in those cask systems when they were pouring it. But the problem is it also had oxygen, and we all know what oxygen does to beer. It oxygenates it.
Oh yeah.
So the beer went bad very fast in the cask system. So that's when Guinness came up with this idea of mixing CO2 and nitrogen. Then they could still get that same cask pour and everything without introducing the oxygen into it. That may be an oversimplification of what he did, but that's my understanding of it.
Interesting. Learn something new every time. I was about to cool story you, but I actually did like that story. So I didn't want to be rude to you. But yeah, Tom, wrapping it up. I think brewing stouts is fantastic. It is stout season. I've fully converted. I still have obviously a fridge full of Kolsch. I'm not giving up on Kolsch, but this time of year, a stout with a cigar, whoo-wee, best thing ever. Don't fret about that component of the dispensing, the nitro. Brew it. Just brew your stout. Start brewing them, man, and kegging them and serving them with CO2, and I think you'll be happy with the results. And as you progress in brewing, and again, like I said, maybe dialing in your favorite recipes, nitrogen can always be added, and then you can compare if it was worth it or not. And if it wasn't worth it, then you're just stuck with the equipment. But kidding aside, it would be worth it. I just mean, don't fret about, I can't brew a stout unless I have a nitro setup, because that's not true. Thousands of people are probably enjoying stouts every day in this country without nitrogen and still tasting good. So
Probably millions. Yeah.
And see, I was going to say millions, and I was afraid you were going to go, really? You think millions? And then we'd make a $5 bet, and then I'd lose. So I didn't even want to go there. Don't. I see your face. Moving on to question number 3 comes from our buddy Todd M., who used the submission form as well at homebrewhappyhour.com. Todd wrote, from one Todd to another, hello from Minnesota. I am blessed to be around such great craft breweries, and I recently took the plunge to make my own craft beer earlier this year. Question: do you try to replicate your favorite beers from your favorite breweries when coming up with recipes, or are you more interested in brewing the general styles like IPA, stouts, pilsners, and more? I'm itching to brew one of Surly's newer brews, their Grapefruit Supreme, which is a delicious grapefruit pale ale, and I have no idea where to start. I'm not too old to use the Google machine. I wanted to ask you guys first because a gift card would also be very nice if you answered my question on the podcast. Happy brewing, Todd. Yes, he found a way to get his question on the show. And I am going to give you a gift card that I forgot to tell y'all. When we take your question on the air in future episodes, we give you a $25 gift card to keggconnection.com. So Todd will be getting that, but let's get to his question. James, you're the recipe man in this group. When you are forming a recipe on, let's say, a stout, are you saying, this is my favorite stout, I'm going to make it after? Or do you kind of go to the book for the BJCP and just base your stuff off of their guidelines?
I'll start with the BJCP guideline book initially, because it'll tell you what percentage and type of malts goes in that particular style. And more importantly, what kind of hops and the hop percentage of the ABV and all of that. So that's, you kind of really, if you're making a recipe, you kind of need to start with the basics on the style. And then you can do interpretation after that. But I think that's what a lot of breweries do, is they start with the base ingredients and then trial and error, they put their own little twist to it.
Todd, when you're making recipes, do you sorry, I had to throw that in because my speech impediment and I messed it up. You don't actually make recipes. Why am I even asking you? No, you do. You've made recipes, or you brew recipes. When you're finding a recipe on the site to brew, are you trying to find clones first because you want to get, like that Yingling one you did, which, by the way, first off, your Yingling clone is better than Yingling is. Funny, isn't it, James? Isn't that funny how that works?
Absolutely.
Yours is, I mean, Yingling's not a bad lager, but your take on the traditional lager or that recipe is better than the real thing. But I'm digressing a little, but when you're brewing, Todd, do you prefer to get beers that are close to your commercial favorites, or are you just brewing because, oh, that sounds like a good IPA, or that sounds like a good pale ale, or whatever?
Yeah, I just brew because I like the beer. I mean, I don't specifically try to clone a lot of beers, although we did try to clone one recently. What was that beer that we cloned? It was a Texas beer, honey rye. Honey rye, yeah. Yep. And man, I brewed that, and it was so good. And then we tried it. I think we even did
we did one of recipe recap.
We used to do this thing called recipe recap. You remember that? And when we used to do the recipe recap, we may still do it. Every time I ask Josh, he says he's got tons of episodes already. He doesn't need any more.
So Todd, we appreciate you submitting the question. Moving on to.
So yeah, I mean, I just brew what I want to. I brew. I read the description of the beer if it's on our website. I brew a lot of beers from the website. Not always even because I want to, but because I want to try all the recipes periodically to see how they turn out. And so I try to get everybody that works there to brew as many as we can. But it's a toss up because we also want to try new things and brew new things, and we also sometimes want to brew old things like Kolsch's and Alts, and so it's difficult. But I have no real preference for brewing a clone or not brewing a clone. It doesn't matter as long as the beer's good. Would
y'all agree or disagree that a lot of commercial beers have some similarity to a recipe kit? And I'm not talking about just because I'd bet you $5 you could probably go on Brewer's Friend and find a recipe for Grapefruit Supreme from Surly. They're a big enough brewery, and Brewer's Friend has enough members that I'm sure someone's already submitted one that is a clone or attempt at a clone, and you could go and try to brew it. But would y'all agree or disagree that like the Grapefruit Supreme may just be a grapefruit pale ale, and there's a gazillion recipes out there for great. You know what I mean? Like, you could start with, like, if you don't find someone who has a 1-for-1, this one they're calling a Grapefruit Supreme clone, you could go find another grapefruit pale ale and then tweak it from there. Because, like, you were talking about, James.
We have a grapefruit pale ale on a side. I've brewed it several times, and it's fantastic. I mean, it's a great beer. I think is that the Ocarina one?
The Ocarina one, for sure. Is Ocarina the IPA, and the Summer Nights is the pale?
Oh, the Summer Nights. That's it. I've brewed that before, and it was really, really good. So
yeah, that's when you still have bottles of it in your beer fridge that are overcarbonated. I remember that beer.
Yeah,
it was. I took a sipper of it to the beach with me this summer and had a real good time, because that finished out at like almost 7%, maybe. It was pretty boozy, or maybe it was like 6.5 or 6.2, but it made for some fun evenings on the beach. I can do grapefruit, fruity beers like that, and I say fruity, it's nothing near what beers are coming out now, where they're basically slushies, but I could do a beer like that at the beach. That's about the only scenario, a hot day at the beach, that's refreshing. I've seen James enjoy an IPA and at the beach.
Yeah, definitely.
That's the setting. But yeah, he made a joke about not being too old to use Google, but I would say that if you're trying to replicate a beer 1-for-1, Google is your friend, because I've said it a million times, we're living in the best time ever to be a home brewer, and you have a supercomputer in your pocket. Most people do, and you can go on Brewers Friends website, or you can go just Google search it. Homebrew Talk also has a huge database of recipes. Reddit, I don't know how they organize it, but their search function on Reddit's pretty decent, so I'm sure you can find it there too. But if you were to just type in grapefruit pale ale, you're going to find a bunch of options, and then, maybe even get into the nitty gritty and try to figure out or ask questions about, well, which one of these is closer? What makes this one taste like this, blah, blah, blah. And James, you've been doing recipes so long. Would you say that you start getting used to being able to tweak a recipe? Like, if you did a pale ale or if you did a stout and it needs to be a little maltier, you're at the point now where you know what needs to be added in regards to the grain bill?
Well, I'm not there yet, but I'm a lot better at that now than I used to be.
And that's just, again, brewing stuff over and over, making notes of here's what I used for this, and here's the results, and then just living and learning, right, as you continue to brew. Yeah,
like that last brown lager I did, I put too much Carafa 2 in it, so I think that if I would have backed that off about 1/4 pound, I think it would have been better beer.
You say too much, man. Too much is subjective, because I had a lot of it, and I would say I drank too much of it. I don't think you did too much anything though to it. Todd, do you even have any left on your tap, or did I float that last time?
Which one? I'm sorry.
The James Brown lager. I think I floated it.
Floated it.
I think I did too. There was one time I came up and floated two.
I should go check and see.
Yeah, you should go check.
We still have some here at the office.
Do you really? Hey, all right. Well, I'm coming up next week. I had offered to come up this week with Black Friday stuff, but then I remembered, wait, it's Black Friday stuff. Why would I offer to come up there? That's going to be terribly crazy. But which segues into our last question, who came from our friend David, who also used the submission form at homebrewhappyhour.com. And David wrote, Josh, I won't waste your time by sucking up to you, because I don't need my question to be read on the show. Joke's on you, David. I'm reading it anyway. Can you spill the beans and let me know what deals Todd is going to do for Black Friday weekend? I can always use more kegs, and a deal on a large fermenter would be nice. Bulk malt would be good too. I've been buying from you guys since Black Friday 2012. Love y'all. Love the podcast. Dave. That was short and sweet. Todd, you're the boss man. Well, first off, he's talking kind of to you like you're Santa Claus. Do you get that vibe too? Like a little bit. I mean, you shaved the beard. I was gonna make a Santa joke, but then you shaved your beard. You got the gray hair. Some might call you jolly shaped. I mean, I don't know the nice. Yeah, you might be jolly shaped. Santa Claus. What can we talk about that is not too hush hush?
Well, I mean, he mentioned bulk grains. That's a really difficult one, because we sell them fairly inexpensive to start with. If you went on our site today and ordered, say, 50 pounds of a bulk grain, I would guess that depending on where you were in the country, we would likely lose money on that sale. So if we discounted them anymore, we would lose more money. And it just, grains are very, very difficult because of the shipping. So the things that we are going to have on sale, a lot of them are kind of secret, but we've really got some good things this year. We've got some new things that we haven't had before. But you will see some sales on kegs, on brewing equipment, that sort of thing. Kettles, a lot of the, was it a kettle or fermenter?
He said fermenter, but I like where you're going.
Fermenters, a lot of the fermenters, the big stainless steel, nice fermenters are sold, drop shipped, or we bring them in and we ship them, but they have MAP pricing. And we can't violate the MAP agreement unless that vendor or that manufacturer lowers the MAP for Black Friday, which some of them do from time to time. So we could see what happens there. So
yes, like you said, some things we're trying to keep hush hush. And because this is publishing, today is Tuesday. It's a few days before the actual sales are going to hit. But I will say this: if you are looking to get into all grain brewing, you're going to be very happy. If you're even looking, maybe I don't want to say too. There is going to be a very affordable way if you're a DIYer like James and want to even build your own 3-tier kind of system in a very MacGyver way. You know what I'm saying, Todd? Without saying too much, like I'm very excited about
a smaller 3-tier system. Yeah,
yeah. Well, like one that I would be using. Enough. I think a 15. You could build a smaller one. Pardon me. You're right. Smaller. I want to get into 15. It'd be smaller. But either way, if you're looking to get into all grain brewing, you're going to be very happy. Kegging, obviously, Grainfather. That's the only one that I know is not a secret or doesn't have to be a secret because that's every year where they go on sale for like $7.99. And then there's Todd even made a section on the website called more than 50 or 50% and more off. That's gonna be live on the site. So I'll just say I'll divulge that info that I liked this year because we do have a bunch of not the standards that we've done every year, which is always exciting when you can add new things because sometimes year after year it's just here's a keg for less price than we charged you, in March, and here's a recipe. Like we're actually getting creative this year. And we've had some vendors work with us too, where I'm pretty excited about Black Friday, Cyber Monday weekend. I think I'm more excited about Thanksgiving eating though. This is always my favorite week because of just that. It kind of makes up for it because, well, I don't work up there anymore. You guys, James, I know how stressed you get. Yeah. As soon as
favorite week.
Yeah. As soon as your Thanksgiving meal's over, you go into a depression. And then
it's not a.
Do you this is why, James, I got you that blood pressure cuff because I want you to take a reading. Take a reading on Wednesday morning and then take a reading on Friday morning for me and report back to us on what your blood because but you kind of run the ship there in regards to like keeping everything like what we need more ordered and make sure orders are going out and yada yada. And I remember last year calling you one time and you're like, hey man, I don't want to be rude, but I can't talk to you right now. I got too much going on. You're the nicest. You're like Canadian.
The thing that's the hardest thing to do is not to over order.
Right.
That's the hard thing to do. It's easy to order. But
it's easy to over order, and nobody gets in trouble for over ordering until we can't pay the bills a month later.
So my butt's on the line because I'm trying to not over order.
Oh, I know. That's why
sometimes it catches me.
I have vowed this year to leave you alone. I forgot why I even called you last year, but it was the nicest putting me in my place I've ever had. Because Todd's usually like, dude, what the hell do you need? You know what today is. And that's a normal Monday. That's not even like a Black Friday. That's a normal Monday. Don't talk to me on Mondays. And then he'll call me 5,000 times in a row if I don't pick up every time. What are you doing, man? I need to talk to you. This year I am excited though because there's a lot of things we're selling that, like I said, are going to be more unique to this year, and I can guarantee you too that they're going to be just for this weekend. There's no, like, we got them specifically to sell them for this weekend. So if you're in the market for anything homebrew or sanitation, clean, anything that has to do with your brew day or brewing experience, keggconnection.com, homebrewsupply.com, starting Friday at midnight. And realistically, Zach usually puts them live on Thanksgiving at like 8 p.m. Central. So if you, that's the secret there. I'll leave that out there. Check at like 8:30 p.m. Central on Thanksgiving, and there's a good chance the banners won't be up, but the deals will be live. So if you don't want to make sure, or if you want to make sure you get something before it goes out of stock, there's your tip for our dozens of listeners who have stuck with us through this far of the show. But anyway, David, thank you so much for submitting your question. And I did want to take his question too, because I wanted to give him a $25 gift card to use during Black Friday. I like encouraging people, and I like giving away Todd's money. But anyways, fellas, that'll do it for this week's episode. I appreciate y'all's time again. I'm sorry that I screwed up last week, but this week, and this is the only episode, I forgot to say that at the top. On our social media, I was like, maybe we'll do 207 and 208. But then Todd was like, he didn't say we. He said, you already screwed up last week. Let's just put it in the trash and we'll do one episode this week. And so that's what we're doing. So there's a chance I'm going to be doing for our Patreon members a live stream late Thursday, as I am doing all the stuff I have to do to get the sites ready for Black Friday. We might do a little impromptu Q&A and cigar drinking session, or cigar smoking, beer drinking session late Thursday night. I will let Patreon members know through our communication on patreon.com/homebrew happy hour. But anyways, guys, enjoy your Thanksgiving. I'll talk to y'all soon.
Thanks.
And that will do it for this episode of the Homebrew Happy Hour. If you have a question you would like us to discuss on a future episode, you can go to homebrewhappyhour.com and click on the submit a question link at the top of the page. Or now you can call or text them in by using 325-305-6107. Thank you to our show sponsor, homebrewsupply.com, for supporting us and the homebrewing community. Remember, guys, this is Black Friday, Cyber Monday weekend, so for the best deals of the year, go to homebrewsupply.com and check them out, and you can use our promo code HHH to get even additional discounts. On behalf of Todd Burns, James Carlson, and the Pearl Media Network, I'm Joshua Stubing. Thank you for listening.
This program is made possible by the checkbook of Mr. Todd Burns and by contributions to our newly launched Patreon by viewers like you. Visit patreon.com/homebrew happy hour and join our community. Thank you.